Is going on, Grinders? It's Chief. We are in the building. It is the last pre-lock show for NFL this season. We are elated. Yes, I am hoarse. I coached a basketball game yesterday. It was a big one. We did win, but boy, did I have to pour out a lot of energy. And now my voice is eluding me on what I think is the biggest show for the biggest game. It is the big game. Tim, TJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to dive into it. It's probably two of the very best teams from each conference all season. No really big surprises here. And so looking forward to dive into it. I'm playing 3 big lineups today, and then got a few smaller ticket contests as well that I'm going to mix in. But looking forward to diving into the big game. Happy to be here with you guys. We've made it till the end. And a little break, and then we're back on our horses for MLB season.
I never get off my horses for MLB season. I wish MLB was year round. I'm slightly kidding. Tim, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Always fun to have a show with you guys. Yeah, it's going to be a great game, I think. So I'm really excited to watch it, to play DFS. I'm going to play one main team. And then I'm probably going to put about 10 teams in the, I think it's the $15 on DK.
Yeah, I think that's probably the strategy I'm going to have as well, because I'm going to be out and about. One of my friends, I think, is going to have something going on. My son is hosting a Super Bowl party. By the way, my son thinks he's me. He wants to host a Super Bowl party every year, take over my living room, and him and his friends have a Madden tournament and all these other things. And this year he wants me to hop in his Madden tournament. Perhaps I will, and then I'll head out. But should be a fun day.
Chief, I was just gonna say, like, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox, I got it all. Let's tell these kids whoever wins can take me on. Whoever wins that tournament can take me on.
I'll see what I can do. All right, Tim, let's go overall view of the slate. Top down. If you want to give top down on FanDuel and DraftKings, that's fine. No problem at all. But yeah, Tim, let's just go top down view, how you view the slate and kind of lineup construction, and then we'll get into some positions. And TJ, we'll do the same thing for you as well. Tim, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we got to start with the Christian McCaffrey conversation. He's going to be showing up in a lot of sims at captain on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So, I mean, that's really like the most polarizing player on this entire slate. Like, he's going to be highly owned at captain. He's going to be extremely highly owned at flex or any flex. So that's really a huge decision point, really, no matter what contest GPP size that you're playing. It's going to be really hard to completely fade him. I think that, just his raw point potential is just so high. His medium projection is just so high that I think he has to be a staple at one of your positions on all sites. So it's really comes down to, is he going to be your MVP captain, or is he going to be a flex player? So that's kind of the decision that I'm kind of tinkering around right now with my one main lineup on DraftKings. And then I was running the Sims on SimLabs, and I was kind of surprised how little Mahomes I was getting. So I'm going to try to get to more of him, because he was not organically popping up, and he's going to be around 50% owned on DK. So I mean, he's going to be somebody that you're going to have to make a decision on for sure. So those two players right there, they're going to be the biggest decision points on their respective teams. And then, I'm kind of analyzing both of these teams' defenses, and they're both so athletic and have such good interior players. It's like, on paper, this is not supposed to be a good spot for Travis Kelce. But, I mean, this is Travis Kelce we're talking about. This is the Super Bowl. We know Mahomes is going to try to feed him the ball, because Mahomes' other pieces are really not very good. So, like where else is he going to throw the ball to? So, I mean, that's just kind of like, just like matchup based. It's not supposed to be a good matchup, but I think he's going to be fed targets. So, what do we do with Kelsey? What do we do with Pacheco? Things like that. So, it's going to be, and then what do we do with value? There's no like amazing value piece, right? Like we've got like the Noah Grays of the world that are kind of popping up in sims and optimals, but I mean that's not like some kind of lock value. So I mean finding value is a little bit tricky. So it's like, it's a pretty tough slate, and I'm pretty excited to break it down with you guys.
Absolutely. TJ, over to you, top down view. And then we'll start at captain on DK and MVP at FanDuel after that.
So I just dropped a link in the chat. The one thing I actually want to touch on really quick is I wrote up a prize picks article for this slate. And like full disclosure, I don't really understand how this works. I don't really get how I got to it, but I wanted to bring it up because Tim was talking about how like on paper, maybe it's not the best matchup for Kelsey, and on paper, it's kind of not necessarily the best matchup for McCaffrey from a rushing standpoint, but it is a receiving standpoint. And that kind of reminded me of this article that I wanted to touch on. I was tasked with writing a how to 100x your entry fees on prize picks today. And I was kind of thinking, well, to 100x, I'm probably going to have to pick 6 of the demon plays, right? 6 of the demon plays is probably how you 100x. And I'm looking at this and I realize that all it took to 100x my salary, 100x my entry fee, was 4 of the demon plays. 4 of the demon plays, and all of a sudden it was 100xing. And it didn't work with every single one. It only worked with a specific combination of 4. And then time I tried to add the 5th, it actually went lower. I'd add a 5th, and I would go from 100x to 50x or to 25x. Still don't really understand why. I can confirm, though, it is still working. And so I dropped the article in chat. There's a combination of you can pick any 4 of the 5 plays that I dropped in the article. And they're all demon plays, but none of them are that unrealistic. It's like 49.5 receiving yards for Christian McCaffrey, 39.5 rushing yards for Mahomes, 99.5 receiving yards for Rashee Rice, 24.5 rushing yards for Brock Purdy. And then I think the other one is 99.5 receiving yards for Kelsey. So all a bit above their projections, but none of them are beyond the realm of possibility here. And so I wanted to drop that in there as well. In terms of DraftKings and FanDuel DFS, there's a couple things that really stand out for me, and that's looking at like the projected ownership compared to the optimal rates. There is the majority of these guys are going heavily over-owned at the captain position on DraftKings. Christian McCaffrey, even though he's going highly owned, actually isn't. He's optimal like a third of the time. So I'm playing 3 lineups today. He'll be in the captain in one of them. But there's 2 other players at the captain position to me that really, really stand out that I'm looking to get overweight on. Played them in my captain position today. And then I'm just going to build the rest of my lineup to script making sense with them at the captain. Since I'm getting some good leverage at that position today, I don't feel the need, and I'm going some higher dollar stuff in 3 entry max. I don't feel the need to get too crazy different today because those 2 other guys that I'm putting in my captain lineup, in my captain position, they're different enough that I feel like I can just build a nice script for them.
All right, there you have it, folks. That is our top-down view from both of these amazing analysts in terms of how they want to approach the slate today. We're going to go ahead and kick it to Tim. Tim, let's start with MVP and captain. And you can either way you want to go. Whether you want to go FanDuel or DraftKings. I know DraftKings is probably, let's say, requires a little bit more skill because of the salary component where they adjust it for us. Where are you thinking about captain, and kind of maybe what's your main captain, and then I know you said you're going to run a few in the $15, and then maybe some alternate captains that you think are good for today.
Yeah, so I'm debating right now. It's probably going to be Christian McCaffrey. Like TJ said, he is getting positive leverage, which is really nice to see. I'm probably going to go Christian McCaffrey in my main lineup, but I'm also really considering Rashee Rice as my primary captain. He's also getting really good positive leverage. I'm talking DK right now, just so everyone knows. Rashee Rice as my next choice. He's probably going to be in about half of my $15 lineups. So at captain, just maybe to get a little different. He's going to be not that highly owned. Only probably about 10% owned at captain, I think. So and he's going to be optimal about 15% of the time. So I think that's a really good GPP play. I am going to take shots on Mahomes too, just because I think he has really strong rushing upside in this matchup. So I think McCaffrey, Rice, Mahomes, and then I'm kind of debating Debo or Kittle as like in maybe one of those 10 lineups. They also are getting a little bit of positive leverage. They're not going to be owned at all. I really like Samuel's receiving prop of the over. Just if people are going to be wanting to bet some props today, I really like the Samuel over in receiving. The only problem I have with that is that I don't have a lot of faith in Purdy today. I think he's going to struggle. That's the only issue that I have with using Samuel or Kittle as captains, because I think this is going to be a McCaffrey game. I don't trust Purdy. So personally, just so everybody knows, I did bet the Chiefs. So I'm definitely thinking this is going to be Mahomes' game, and so it's like I think Purdy's going to struggle. So for me, the captains for me, C-Mac and Rice, definitely Mahomes, and then possibly a Samuel or a Kittle.
If Mahomes throws for over, say, 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, they win the game. How close is he to Tom Brady on the all-time ranking?
Yeah, I mean, it's he's going to be up there, right? I mean, it's going to be one of the most impressive stints in a 6 or 7 year span ever. So, I mean, yeah, it's a huge game for his legacy for sure.
Chief, what do you think?
Yeah, let me chime in, because the thing about it is to catch Tom, it's really going to take a lot. Like, I think, because we got to think Tom's got 7 Super Bowls. So, like, even to catch him, it's going to take a lot. So, like, Mahomes, in terms of, that discussion, he doesn't really have a whole lot of room for error in the Super Bowl. Like, he's got to start winning a lot of them to even get – and look, we probably think Mahomes has at least 10 more, like minimum, right? At least 10 more. I think if he wins today, in terms of the first few years, he's definitely probably – top 3 all time, wouldn't we say? Top 3 all time if he wins today. And then I think the other part of that is, where does Andy Reid fit into the equation in terms of retirement? Because he's getting older. Like, how long is that pair together? And I'll say this, and then I know we got to move on, but I feel like they've got a good shot. Every year we look at this team, they've been to the last 6 AFC championships, haven't they?
Yeah.
5 or 6 in a row. I mean, even that, that's incredible. Like, they've been in 5 or 6 in a row. That's amazing. So if he wins today, I think he's top 3 on the list. That's my personal opinion. Top 3 at quarterback on the list right now.
Yeah, it's turning very much into like a Jordan LeBron situation, and it's pretty fun to watch.
I'm shocked that he's able to do it with the wide receiver core that he has. They're so awful. You know what I mean? Like, and he's they're in the Super Bowl. Like with
that's what I'm saying.
with this this passing game, those wide receivers are no good. Like he has nobody to throw to other than Kelsey.
Tim, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if he wins today, he's got to be top 3. Like,
right, and then he's got Rice now, who's this amazing rookie who's gonna turn into an absolute stud. But I mean, he's got no other secondary pieces, so it's like, Rice has really come out of nowhere, and been really, really impressive. And he's only, he's very, very young, so he can.
And they don't have to pay him a lot of money yet. Like, they don't have to pay him a lot of that. See, that's Tim. I think you hit on something there, and I know we're talking about the big game, but this is the real part of the conversation. They don't have to pay Rashee Rice a lot of money right now. Isaiah Pacheco, I think, is getting close. This is year 2 for him, right? So he's probably got another year before they have to pay him money. Tim, they can very well be back again next year because Rice should get better. And the emergence of Pacheco, like, do you remember 2 years ago, I think we thought CEH was going to be a thing. And then all of a sudden, they started playing Isaiah Pacheco from Rutgers. And then now he's just taking over the backfield. So they've kind of changed their style a little bit, Tim, where Pacheco is kind of a workhorse running back in a Kansas City Chiefs system. Last week, Pacheco ran the ball, not last week, I guess the week before last. I think Pacheco ran it, 20-something times? I can't remember. And Mahomes still threw it almost 40 times. That's incredible. It's a pleasure to watch. And so since we're talking about Pacheco, unless we have anything else to add, Tim, let's just start at running back.
I haven't actually given my captain thoughts yet.
Sorry.
You're good. I started the tangent, so that's not your fault. It's mine.
Look at me. Yeah, TJ, captain, let's go.
So yeah, like I mentioned, in one of my 3 lineups, I'm going to go McCaffrey. In the other one, Tim knocked it out of the park. It's Rashee Rice getting the biggest positive leverage at that position on the slate. Actually, outside of McCaffrey, since his captain, he's just so projected optimal there that his is actually the best. But second best is Rice. Now, the third player that I'm going with is not as much of a positive leverage.
Is this spicy?
As much.
Is this spicy?
But it's definitely spicy on FanDuel. And I think he's totally viable on FanDuel too, projecting for 3% ownership over there. Tim touched on him briefly, but there's one player to me not named Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers that could absolutely take over this game, and it's Deebo Samuel. He anytime he touches the ball, he can break it for a long play. He is the yards after the catch king. He runs the ball out of the backfield, catches screen passes, catches deep balls. I think because of how often Deebo Samuel moves around the field, L'Jarius Sneed is probably just going to be on Brandon Ayuk for most of this game. And with Sneed on Ayuk, I really think that opens up a great opportunity for Deebo Samuel today. And so 3% MVP on FanDuel, love it. 5% captain on DraftKings, absolutely love it. I want to be getting to a ton of Deebo today. I also am on his over receiving yards. I wrote up his more than receiving yards on Prize Picks also. So love Deebo today. He's my favorite play on the slate in the captain or the MVP or even the flex. And then Rashee Rice in general, as we kind of make our pivots to the position by position and the flex. Rashee Rice on DraftKings, he's so cheap. I would consider setting a rule today that I would play Rice at flex or captain on DraftKings in every single lineup just because of how cheap he is.
Yeah, and he's cheap on owner's box as well. Like, I just thought, and I wrote him up for owners, but I just thought he was way too cheap. I'm with you guys. Definitely think Rashee Rice is probably about as I'm gonna call it. I think he's probably a lot button. I mean, he should get the targets here. For those of you that are into blitz projections and also watching this show, the blitz tends to think that this game is going to be a passing fiasco in terms of the yards. I mean, I looked at Mahomes over 300 and Purdy's close to 300 as well. Maybe I don't quite agree with the Purdy one, but we'll see. But the blitz thinks that this is going to be, a shootout here, or at least an air it out game for those of you that have the blitz projections. All right, Tim, back over to you. I know we've kind of talked about Captain, we talked about quarterback a little bit. If you have any quarterback thoughts, just in general, which I know you've kind of already given them, especially about Purdy, no problem. We can go ahead and move to running back. If you want to give a couple of thoughts, that's fine. But let's get this thing to running back and talk about how we want to approach, I guess, Pacheco versus McCaffrey. And are we a question of mine is, are we comfortable having both in the same lineup? Because I think both are going to be fairly productive.
Yeah, so I don't want to do both, to be honest with you, in my primary team. I get it. I get it if you want to go large field, but I think in my primary single entry team, I think I'm going to be fading Pacheco. Not that he's a bad play. He's not a bad play. I just think I'm going to go, pass heavy. I agree with Cardi. I think this is going to be a pass heavy game. So, and I think that's the only argument for Purdy, in my opinion, is that personally, this is just my opinion. Personally, I think the 49ers are going to be trailing. So, that's why I like the Samuel over receiving prop. That's why I think Purdy could possibly get over his, pass attempt prop, his yardage prop. So, but yeah, I'm personally going to be fading Pacheco because I want to get to guys like Rice or Kelsey or, things like that. Obviously like Mahomes. So like Pacheco just doesn't fit with what I want to be doing. I think this is going to be a throwing game. So I think that there are maybe some potential punts that you can get to, like Kyle Juszczyk, maybe just as like a large field GPP play. But nothing really stands out. We have McKinnon and CEH in projections, but I think that they're pretty much, I'm not really interested in either one of those guys. I'm not going to even waste a value spot with either one of those guys. But I think Juszczyk would be like the only other running back that I would consider for large field GPPs.
Okay, there you have it. Those are Tim's thoughts at running back. TJ, over to you, sir.
Yeah, so for me, it's basically the same. Christian McCaffrey, obviously the main guy I want to go with. I'm going to be underweight on Pacheco. I have him on one of my 3 lineups. I believe the only one that he's in right now is the Deebo Samuel captain team. That one has that's my fade McCaffrey team. It's got Purdy, it's got Pacheco, it's got Rice, and so that's the one that I have Pacheco in. Other than that, I'm going without him. If he dresses, if he's going to play, I will have interest in Jerick McKinnon, $200. And if he actually there's a chance he plays and becomes a third down back. It's very slim, but if he dresses, well, what is he dressing for? If not to be playing a little bit in the passing game. And so because he's so cheap, 1 catch, 2 catches, he pays off that price tag. I will get to Jerick McKinnon if he dresses. If he doesn't, I'll have a little bit more interest in Pacheco. And then I agree, you can play Juszczyk in GPPs as a salary saver. And I think you can play CEH only if McKinnon does not dress.
All right, there you go. And I'm close to the fading CEH today. I just don't see how he would be a slate breaker unless he catches a screen and takes it to the house. Those are my thoughts. I mean, we've even seen Pacheco in terms of taking over the backfield, even his targets.
It's just one of those things, I'd say, because he's so cheap. If McKinnon doesn't play and there's just the 2 of them, envision a scenario where Pacheco has a 50-yard run that gets them to the 2-yard line, and then he's tired, and CEH just punches it in at 1.2K at that super cheap price tag. That would then be optimal. And so I think it's just there's or even you're playing like a 49ers or you're playing a blowout situation. You're playing an onslaught and you want to go with the Chiefs defense and both the running backs. I think large field, if McKinnon's out, there's a route. If McKinnon's in, I think you hit the X button.
Yeah, understood. I love the thoughts, fellas. Tim, back over to you. We are moving to wide receiver. I know we've talked about it. You expressed your affection for the Deebo Samuel receiving prop. How are you feeling about him in your lineup building?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a very, very strong play. It really depends on what I will do it with my value pieces, right? Because I really want to play Rice first. So Rice is projected for 10 targets and 7 receptions and 72 receiving yards, just as a median projection. So I mean, that's really, really strong. Samuel's projected for 7 targets and 59 receiving yards. So, you know, it's definitely I'm going to prioritize Rice. I would love to get to them both, but you know, we do live in the world of a salary cap, so it's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard to play both. It's what do you do with, you know, your value pieces? Like, are there any cheap wide receivers that we can realistically play? Like maybe a Justin Watson. Maybe that would be the guy that we could potentially play. But I think, I don't know, like there's really isn't any like I don't know, super cheap wide receiver that I really want to get to. I don't trust MBS. You know, like he's just out there doing cardio. You know, it's like he plays a lot of snaps, but he doesn't get any targets. So it's like I don't really want to play MVS. I'd much rather just go a little lower to Watson.
Okay, sounds good. TJ, over to you. Any additional wide receiver thoughts? I think, and I'm going to say this right now, I think we're all in agreement here. I love Rashee Rice today. Definitely my favorite play. I'm feeling like I'm just going to have the lock button, and I'll live with the results of whatever happens. TJ, over to you.
Rashee Rice, definitely priority 1. Deebo Samuel, definitely priority 2. After that, I don't really care all that much. I'm going to be underweight on Ayuk because I think he's going to get the L'Jarius Sneed treatment. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is probably my favorite other guy to go with. I agree with Tim. I trust him as far as I can throw him. He's terrible, but he's going to get targets. He's going to get targets probably deep down the field. And so if he catches 1, he's probably going to be optimal. If he catches 2, he's definitely going to be optimal. And so Valdez-Scantling, I'm definitely going to take shots on. Sky Moore, I don't think I will. Justin Watson, I don't think I will. It's going to be Valdez-Scantling or Mecole Hardman at 1.6. I think that I would take shots on Hardman just because that 5% ownership, and although the projection is not there, he's the type of guy that they might just run one specific gadget for him throughout the game, and if that gadget play hits, he could be optimal. So,
okay, sounds good. We're moving to our next pass catching position. That's the tight end position. And sometimes, Tim, on these slates, it feels like the cheap tight end is where we end up making a little money from time to time. I will say, just right off the rip, I actually love Noah Gray today. He's been the 3rd leading target getter in the playoffs so far. And so, like, even in that Baltimore game, I know he only had 2 catches, he had 5 targets, had 3 targets in the game before that. And I even look back some this season where, you know, he's had 3 to 4 targets in a fair amount of games. And I think that speaks volumes to the lack of pass catching. And he's another guy I think that Mahomes trusts because he's been in this offense. And so while I know he doesn't have the same upside as Kelce or Rice, if people haven't been looking, he's the 3rd guy in terms of targets on this team overall. You know, throughout most of the season in that span as the receivers have just been so bad. He's cheap. I'm not saying it's a crazy amount of upside. I'm saying if he catches three passes for 20 yards and gets us a touchdown, maybe we're in business. Tim, tight end, we know it's Kelce and Kittle. How are you feeling about Noah Gray?
No, yeah, so Noah Gray is my favorite value on the entire slate. The only issue is ownership. He's gonna get steamed. Like right now, we have him for 26% on DK. I don't have FanDuel pulled up, but I'm sure he's pretty highly owned. He's 5.5 on FanDuel. So I mean, that's the only issue, right? Like I love him as a value play. He's gonna be even higher owned in single entry, higher dollar stuff. So that's just the only problem. I'm not going to say I'm not going to play him. I might play him on my main team, but it's going to be ownership is the only issue. He's projected for 5 points for 1,800. That's really, really solid. That's really good. That's a good projection for somebody under 2K, but he's going to be like the consensus, top value play across the board, across both sites. So it's just the ownership angle, you know what I mean? And if you want to take a stand and get way overweight or way underweight, it's a tough decision. If you're playing like a catch type build, he definitely is your guy, for sure. So he makes a lot of things work. I kind of like Justin Watson. I know he's a wide receiver when we're talking tight ends, but I kind of like Justin Watson for $600 more at a fraction of the ownership, just as a pivot, in terms of lineup construction. So I'm not going to play McCole Hardman, I'm not doing that, but I would definitely do Justin Watson as like a pivot away from Gray, or Kyle Juszczyk as a pivot, who is even less owned than Watson and is cheaper. So it's Noah Gray is my favorite in a vacuum, but ownership will be a thing with him. He is going to get steamed.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it is the Super Bowl. Like, we're probably going to get one or two gadget weird plays from Kansas City where they go out and spin around the circle, do cartwheels, and then all of a sudden, Christian Watson might be throwing a 50-yard touchdown. You never know. Like, Justin Watson, excuse me. I said Christian Watson. I meant Justin Watson.
Christian Watson's not throwing a touchdown today.
I got really confused there. I was like, what?
It's the Super Bowl. You never know.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the big game, actually. You never know.
I think, to be honest, I think on this one we're actually allowed to say it because this is not this is not sponsored by FanDuel. But I still went in the description and the title, and I didn't put it in there just in case.
Well, TJ, let me say this.
It's still the same play.
Let me say this before you continue. If you're not building with SimLabs, what are you doing, folks? SimLabs is the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs, and now you can use it for both NFL and NBA. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing. Running out of time before lock? That is a question, by the way. Quickly build a set of lineups to fill out your entries. Want to see who might be falling under the radar? Use the tool to examine players the field might be sleeping on. Note, all combo subscribers have access to both NFL and NBA Sim Labs, while sports specific. Premium subs will have access to the corresponding sports in Sim Labs. Additionally, this is the big game. We've got big props for our props and pick'em package. Check out the brand new props and pick'em package. The experts here at our RG projection team take our premium stats and comb through the market for any inefficiencies. Using our model, you can easily see which lines are off, where to find them, and how likely the prop will hit based on our tool. You can also now try out the props and pick'em package as a 3-day pass. Note, this will auto-renew at the monthly rate once the 3 days are up. Use the link in our description for a 3-day pass on RG props and pick'em. TJ, over to you.
Yeah. So what am I doing? What over to me for what? If I'm are we props and pick'eming? Am I kickering? What is it over to me for?
We were talking about tight end.
Oh, the tight end stuff. I thought I talked about it already. That's my bad. I got all confused. I agree. So Travis Kelce is priority one. George Kittle, I think, is cheap enough that he actually makes for a pretty interesting tournament play here as well. Kansas City's been so good all year defending wide receivers. And so if I'm wrong about the Deebo Samuel thing, I think George Kittle is going to be the guy that has a really big game. I think Kittle or Deebo, maybe both, but I think Kittle or Deebo is going to have a very big game today. I think he's maybe even somewhat interesting to take a shot on in the captain position. Outside of that, obviously you play Kelce. Kelce's great. Maybe they try and shut him down. Maybe it's like last game where they tried to shut him down specifically and it just didn't work because he dominated. So he's getting his targets no matter what. It's the big game. And then Noah Gray, I agree, one of the very top value plays on the slate. Just a matter about ownership. If you're playing a chalky lineup, maybe pivot. If you're playing a lower owned lineup, you got a lower owned captain, then yeah, maybe get yourself some Noah Gray in there.
All right, sounds good. We've got our last kind of two positions left, and then we will be out of here. These will be quick. How are you feeling about kicker, Tim? You know, I'm typically pro kicker on these slates, depending on how it's going. And in a high-scoring game, I'm definitely pro kicker. Probably more specifically Harrison Butker than Jake Moody, but that's just me. How are you feeling about the kicker position?
Yeah, I'm usually very, very pro kicker. I think I'm gonna stay away from the kicker today, just to take a chance on a higher upside kind of guy, kind of player. But yeah, I mean, kickers are very safe, right? And if you land on them, I think they're fine. I play kickers quite often. I think for this game, in those $10, $15 teams I'm going to be playing, I'm going to fade the kickers. If I land on a kicker on my primary single entry team, maybe I click that button. I agree. I prefer Butker over Moody. But yeah, it's not really somebody that I'm looking to get to as a priority.
TJ, over to you.
I do like their price tags and how they kind of fit. Just not that they're kind of always where kickers is. It's not like they're extra cheap or anything like that. But I don't really like too many of the mid-range plays on the slate. Like I don't want further down than Kittle. So I don't want to play the 49ers defense. I don't really want to play Jawan Jennings. I don't really want to play the Chiefs defense. Valdez-Scantling is the next guy I'd consider in that price range, and he's a full over $2,000 cheaper than the kickers. And so just because it's kind of a no man's land, I don't hate the idea of taking shots on Moody and Butker.
All right, and then you guys will kind of covered defense, TJ, in your opinion. Tim, defense, and then we'll close this thing out.
The only defense that I'm even considering is the Chiefs, because I think they could get to Purdy. Yeah. They're cheaper. I think KC wins this game, in my opinion. So it's the Chiefs D. That's the only D that I would consider for this game.
Okay, folks, we have hit every position. We've given you our top-down thoughts on the big game with some of the biggest prize pools in the industry, according to these DFS sites. TJ, any closing thoughts for the year, as this is our last NFL show for this season, and you'll see us back again next season, hopefully.
Thank you to everyone who was able to tune in live. Thank you to everyone who is tuning into this show throughout the day, and to everyone who has been here throughout the entire season. You can, of course, catch the three of us back for, NBA content, for NFL content, MLB content. Thank you so much for joining us. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. You can catch more of me here at RotoGrinders throughout the year, and also at agentsoffandom.com, where I'm covering TV and movies and stuff like that. We're expecting to get a big Deadpool 3 trailer during the big game today. Deadpool 3, the only Marvel MCU movie coming out this year, and we're going to have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine coming back from the early 2000s X-Men movies. It's going to be a really fun time. We're getting our first trailer for that one. So it's a big game for me, not only in football, but in the content covering streets and pop culture too.
Yes, sir. Tim, over to you.
So just one last prop that I actually just bet, just because I feel like it, because it's the last football game of the year. I bet Rashee Rice 50-1 to win MVP. Super Bowl MVP.
Interesting. I mean, that's a good number. Because you got to think, if he goes for 100 and catches 2 touchdowns, he may in fact win it over Mahomes.
Right.
That's a big possibility. I like that call, Tim. I'm about to make a call and see.
I'm gonna make that bet, and I'm also gonna make one with Debo, whatever he is.
Debo's 20-1 on DK.
That's what I feel in my plums. Is a Debo Samuel Super Bowl MVP
if they win.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, these beautiful guys have the sports book at their disposal. Me, not so much, but I do have the props and pick'em stuff. And so one of the plays that I really like today, if you were following, is Kyle Juszczyk. It's very low. You can get it somewhere floating between 4.5 and 5.5 rushing plus receiving yards. I expect him to catch at least 2 passes in this game and maybe get a rushing attempt. There you go, folks. This has been the last pre-lock show. We're closing it out with the big game for TJ, for Tim. on behalf of rotograders.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We love you. I'm Chief. We will see you guys again next season.